Boston, a city long admired for its affluence and advancement, is now confronting a troubling paradox: homelessness. Beneath the shadows of its grand skyline and storied streets, countless individuals fight to endure life without shelter. This is neither a far-off concern nor one that can be dismissed. It's a crisis born from economic shortcomings, institutional neglect, and the crushing weight of addiction. In a city that boasts innovation and prosperity, how can we continue to accept this harsh truth? The moment to face this emergency is now, before it becomes the measure of who we are. The current state of homelessness in Boston. Based on Boston's 2024 Homeless Census 5, 756 people are living without stable housing, a figure that reveals a persistent and deeply rooted crisis. These figures go beyond mere data. They represent disrupted lives, postponed aspirations, and families struggling to survive in a harsh environment of uncertainty. From the busy streets of downtown to the often ignored mass and cast corridor tents and makeshift shelters line the cityscape, making homelessness an unavoidable, visible emergency rather than a distant idea. These encampments put pressure on the city's policies, available resources, and collective will, compelling both officials and citizens to acknowledge what has long been in plain sight. Families account for a notable and increasing share of this demographic. Around 40% of those facing homelessness in 2024 belong to family groups, a painful reminder of Boston's worsening housing affordability problem. For parents trying to keep a roof over their children, even small disruptions, a missed paycheck, an unexpected medical cost, or a rent hike can shift their lives from stability to homelessness. This reality pushes us to confront difficult questions. Are current housing policies truly safeguarding families, or are they failing those most at risk? Racial inequality intensifies the situation. Black and Latino Bostonians are disproportionately represented among the city's homeless, exposing systemic injustices that span generations. Barriers such as unequal access to housing, stable employment, and social programs create environments where communities of color face a higher risk of homelessness. Addressing these enduring disparities requires intentional strategic action that focuses on both immediate needs and the structural roots of inequality. The human impact is both seen and unseen. While encampments capture public attention, many people remain out of sight, living in vehicles, overcrowded housing, or temporary facilities, enduring silent suffering. Every figure in the census corresponds to a story of struggle, endurance, and a pressing call for change. As Boston faces this reality, one pressing question remains: what practical, lasting measures can ensure that every individual has access to safe housing, dignity, and opportunity? Homelessness in Boston is more than a statistic. It's a reflection of the city's principles, choices, and the urgent need to close the gap between privilege access and human necessity. The root causes of homelessness in Boston. The origins of homelessness in Boston run deep, intertwined with the city's streets, its historic landmarks, and its shining skyline. Affordable housing is in short supply, a scarce commodity, so difficult to attain that even full-time workers struggle to find it. For many residents, each paycheck barely covers rent, forcing harsh trade-offs between housing, food, healthcare, and essentials. A single unexpected cost, a medical crisis, a broken vehicle, or unemployment can dismantle years of careful planning, pushing families into homelessness. This reflects the brutal truth of the homeless in America, and Boston mirrors it with clarity and intensity. Economic strain worsens the threat. Inflation steadily chips away at wages, and low-wage work fails to match the pace of rising living expenses. Families who once dreamed of a modest apartment now face streets that offer no compassion, yet financial strain is only part of the story. Systemic injustice intensifies these hardships. Decades of biased housing systems, unequal job opportunities, and fragmented support networks have left communities of color exposed. Generations of Black and Latino Bostonians carry the legacy of redlining wage discrimination and eviction cycles, shaping who secures housing and who does not. The safety nets meant to cushion hardship are full of holes, leaving those who falter with limited choices. Individual crises collide with these structural forces, creating abrupt, life-altering falls. Mental illness, physical health issues, and unemployment intersect with an inadequate support system, driving many toward homelessness. Substance use often follows both a reaction to pain and a trap tightening, a vicious cycle. Addiction deepens isolation, blocks opportunities, and locks vulnerable individuals in instability. It is a maze without clear exits, a system that penalizes those already in distress. Boston's streets reveal a broader narrative where profit too often surpasses protection and development eclipses human need. The tents, shelters, and food lines all testify to a society failing to uphold its most fundamental responsibility. What does it reveal about a city and a country when survival hinges on chance, privilege, or sheer endurance? Recognizing the underlying causes of homelessness is essential to envisioning a city where everyone has safety, opportunity, and dignity. Only then can Boston, along with the wider nation facing the homeless in America, begin to dismantle the cycle and bring justice to those most in need. The role of substance abuse in Boston's homelessness crisis. In Boston, the glow of success casts long shadows, but none stretch further than those created by substance abuse. For many, without shelter, addiction is less a decision than a means of survival in an unstable world. In areas like Mass and Cass, the streets lay bare. A harsh truth: the opioid epidemic has become part of everyday existence, dictating the rhythm of pain and despair. Among the homeless in America, substance use disorders are widespread, often entwined with mental health issues, forming a cycle as brutal as it is relentless. The consequences are both immediate and deadly. Life on the streets exposes people to extreme conditions, and substance use intensifies these risks. Diseases transmitted through needles, such as hepatitis and HIV, spread rapidly, while overdoses claim lives daily, leaving emergency rooms and morgues to record the toll. Addiction also tears at the fabric of community, leading to conflicts, petty offenses, and deeper isolation. To outsiders, the Mass and Cass encampments may seem chaotic or beyond hope, but within them lie human stories of fear, endurance, and heartbreak. This cycle's danger lies in its self-perpetuating nature. Homelessness strips away security, structure, and opportunity, pushing some towards substances to simply get through the night. Addiction then slams doors shut. Employers hesitate, landlords refuse, and stable housing drifts out of reach. The outcome is a vicious feedback loop. where homelessness and substance abuse reinforce each other, trapping individuals for years or even decades. Dismantling this pattern requires more than goodwill. It demands approaches that tackle both crises simultaneously. Recovery cannot flourish without stable housing, and housing is nearly unattainable without treatment. Boston must invest in programs that blend healthcare, counseling, and transitional housing, providing more than shelter, a pathway to dignity, security, and hope. As we face the devastating impact of addiction on the homeless in America, one question remains: how can our communities transform empathy into action and build systems that free people from this spiral? Share your perspective. What solutions do you believe could have the greatest impact for those caught at the intersection of homelessness and addiction? The broader impact on Boston's community. Boston's homelessness crisis reaches far beyond those living on the streets, influencing every layer of the city's social and economic systems. The financial burden is immediate and substantial. Emergency housing, medical care, and law enforcement responses cost millions annually, diverting funds from education infrastructure and community development. Every dollar spent on emergency measures is one less invested in long-term growth, but the repercussions extend well beyond financial ledgers. In vibrant districts like downtown Boston, tent communities have become a visible and unavoidable presence. Visitors walking the Freedom Trail, exploring Faneuil Hall, or admiring historic landmarks encounter scenes that sharply contrast with Boston's curated image. The conflict between preserving the city's public identity and meeting residents' pressing needs provokes difficult questions about priorities, empathy, and shared duty. On a social level, homelessness profoundly reshapes communities. In the South End and other prominent neighborhoods, tents fill sidewalks and empty lots, unsettling many residents. Conversations about public safety, cleanliness, and neighborhood identity are frequent, often escalating into heated debates about the right path forward. Some advocate for compassion and expanded aid, while others push for enforcement or clearing of encampments. Allocating limited resources complicates matters further. Who should receive help first? Veterans, families, newcomers, or those battling addiction and mental illness? These discussions expose deep divisions within Boston's social fabric, where empathy and irritation intersect, and stereotypes often overshadow understanding. People without homes are too frequently viewed as symbols of decline rather than community members in need of support. Public health also bears the weight of this crisis. Poor sanitation, limited healthcare access, and chronic stress heighten susceptibility to contagious illnesses like hepatitis and tuberculosis. Mental health issues often go untreated, adding strain to already overburdened healthcare systems. Massachusetts General and other hospitals continually treat patients whose conditions have worsened because of prolonged street life. The ripple effects touch everyone, proving that homelessness is not an isolated issue, but a collective challenge that demands a united response. Boston's crisis forces the city to examine its core values. A place known for innovation, academia, and culture must confront the gap between its prestigious image and the daily struggles of its most at-risk populations. The pressing question remains of how can a city with vast wealth and knowledge address these intertwined problems while protecting dignity and fostering equity for all. Recognizing the wide-reaching consequences of homelessness is the first step towards solutions rooted in both practicality and compassion, ensuring no one in Boston remains unseen. Current and potential solutions for Boston. Amid the magnitude of Boston's homelessness crisis, glimmers of hope remain, showing that meaningful solutions, though complex, are achievable. Existing programs offer essential support to those enduring life on the streets. PATH, for example, links people to mental health resources and addiction services, delivering help where it's most critical. Affordable housing initiatives are gradually emerging, opening doors for low-income families. But progress is slowed by soaring building costs and regulatory hurdles. Shelters continue to play a vital role, yet they serve as temporary havens rather than permanent answers, treating symptoms without resolving the deeper causes. Looking forward, there's a clear route toward real transformation. Housing-first strategies successfully implemented in places like Salt Lake City prioritize stable housing above all else, without preconditions. By securing permanent housing, first, individuals gain the stability necessary to address mental illness, addiction, or unemployment. Research demonstrates that this model not only cuts chronic homelessness, but also relieves pressure on healthcare and criminal justice systems. In Boston, expanding these programs alongside comprehensive services, career support, therapy, and mentorship could change thousands of lives. Preventive strategies such as offering short-term rental assistance to avert evictions would stop many families from falling into homelessness altogether. Collaboration amplifies results. City agencies, nonprofits, and private businesses must work in unison to broaden access to critical services from healthcare to employment. Groups like Pine Street Inn already deliver shelter counseling and job readiness programs, but with increased funding and partnerships, their impact could grow substantially. Community involvement is just as essential. Confronting stigma. Nurturing compassion and dedicating time or resources can build an inclusive culture where those experiencing homelessness in America feel recognized and supported. Ultimately, solving this crisis requires more than legislation. It calls for a shift in mindset. Boston must view its unhoused population not as an inconvenience to erase, but as fellow citizens worthy of dignity, opportunity, and hope. By combining short-term assistance with lasting investment, the city can break cycles of hardship and help people rebuild meaningful futures. As these solutions take shape, one pressing question remains: how can each of us contribute to transforming compassion into tangible action for the homeless in America? Personal reflection on Boston's path forward. As I walk through Boston from the South End to the Mass and Cass corridor, I'm faced with a stark paradox, a city admired for its legacy, innovation, and affluence, yet marked by human suffering that demands attention. Here among rows of tents and improvised shelters, statistics take on human form: parents shielding their kids from the cold, veterans overlooked, and individuals battling addiction and mental illness. These lives are shaped not by choice, but by circumstance, with resilience often serving as the only defense against relentless adversity. The homeless in America are not distant figures. They are our neighbors' fellow citizens, and evidence of a system that sometimes abandons those most in need. What stands out most is the deep connection between addiction and homelessness. In places like Mass and Cass, the hold of opioids and other substances reveals a cycle nearly impossible to escape without structured help. Yet the way forward exists. Housing is not a prize, it's the starting point for healing stability and self-respect. Models like Housing First provide a clear framework, proving that once housing is secured, people can address mental health, rebuild careers, and reclaim their futures. Real change, however, requires more than legislation. It demands a cultural shift. Boston must challenge the stigma that portrays unhoused individuals as failures instead of victims of systemic injustice. Compassion must evolve into advocacy, tangible action, and sustained investment. From local groups to citywide coalitions, every contribution toward uplifting the marginalized counts. My vision is that Boston becomes a place that demonstrates what's possible when empathy aligns with strategy. By weaving together housing, healthcare, and community support, the city can change lives and reshape the larger story of neglect. A city willing to confront these crises with resolve, and humanity can prove that no issue is too ingrained, no person too far gone, and that dignity belongs to everyone, not just the privileged. Conclusion. Boston's homelessness crisis is more than just numbers. It reflects economic disparities, systemic failings, and the devastating impact of addiction. Yet within this struggle lies potential for change. Moving forward requires decisive action, expanding affordable housing, merging mental health and addiction services, and developing prevention strategies to stop homelessness before it starts. Housing First programs prove that stability provides the foundation for recovery, while partnerships among government, nonprofits, and communities strengthen results. However, policy alone cannot solve the problem. The city must nurture a culture of compassion, seeing the humanity behind every tent shelter in life affected. Boston possesses the resources, legacy, and determination to set the standard. The vision is unmistakable, a city where no one goes unseen, where dignity is upheld, and where hope triumphs over despair, proving that even the toughest crises can be overcome with courage and care.